Hello viewers, 4DIYers here with another video for everyone. In this video here I'll be showing you how to install a P3 gauge in your BMW E90 3 Series. This also applies to other BMW 3 Series models of the same generation. A big shout out to P3 Gauges for hooking me up with this setup. A link to this will be included in the video description. First, we're required to remove the vent on the driver's side. Use a nylon trim tool, gently pry at the edges, and slowly work the trim piece out. Here's the clips on the back side of that trim panel. Then the clip locations on the dashboard side. Now for the unboxing. First we have the digital gauge panel with the new vent. This will replace the existing vent and I'll show you the installation process. With the gauge being installed on a diesel, it does require an additional analog boost sensor as the current gauge cannot pull the values from the OBD2 port. This will also be much more accurate. I will, however, keep the analog boost sensor installation for another video as it's diesel specific. Next is a module box. Some vacuum lines and ties for the analog boost sensor. And finally some extras like a keychain, decals, etc. Using a small standard screwdriver, go around the outside of the vent, disconnecting the clips. Then gently pry the vent from its trim. This does take some patience to help with the removal. Here's the view of the vent once it's out. Now a view of the trim panel. Next, the outer trim part needs to be separated from the plastic duct. Again, use a small standard screwdriver to disconnect those clips. Once disconnected, then unclip the vent flap lever. Here's a view of that duct. And now here's a view of that outer trim panel. Using the standard screwdriver again, remove those louvers. Now remove the rear diffuser. You'll need to disconnect the tabs to pop them out of place. Once out, we can then remove a diffuser flap furthest to the left. This will give us some room for the wire on the back side of the digital panel. Now this piece can be installed back into place. Install the wire into the duct. Make sure it won't interfere with the diffusers in behind and then clip the new gauge panel in place. You'll need to either cut out or file a notch on the back side of the duct to make room for that wire. I used some paper towel and rubbing alcohol to clean the surface inside the vent so the wire can be glued into place. Hot glue is then used here. Due to the tight space, I put a little bit of glue on the tip of the screwdriver and then applied it to where the wire goes. More glue is then applied when I was happy with its position. A spot was cleaned with rubbing alcohol again and the glue was applied on the outside to hold that wire in place. After that, a small cable tie was applied to the outside to keep that wire into place and prevent any strain. The ties were trimmed with side cutters. The outer trim piece is then clipped back into place. The linkage is snapped into place then. Make sure everything works correctly. Finally, the vent can be snapped into place on the trim panel. Once done, here's what it looks like. You can use a screwdriver to adjust the vents in the back if needed, and you can still stop the airflow of this vent if needed as well. Now for the installation, remove the T20 screws along the bottom panel under the dashboard. There should be 3 in total. Remove the screws for the hood handle and kick panel. Both are Phillips. Don't mix these up as they are different. Unclip it from the center console and then pull that panel out from under the dashboard. You'll need to disconnect the speaker wire, the footwell light, and the fiber optic connector. The small electrical component was also removed on the left side. I spread the clips apart and then pulled it straight off. Remove the plastic trim along the door edge. This simply pulls straight off. If a clip is left behind, a trim tool can be used to pull it off and then reinstall it back onto the trim piece. Remove the kick panel. It has 2 clips. Disconnect the trunk switch in behind. One stayed in place, and that's fine, as I can slide it back into the clip for reinstallation. Feed the wire from the gauge inside the dashboard opening and down to the underside. You'll see some factory wiring here. I ran the gauge wiring just beside this. Let the wire fall under the dash, then pull it out as you're feeding the new gauge in place. Finally, snap the panel back into place. Connect the wire from the gauge to the module, then connect the analog boost sensor and the OBD2 port connection. Connect the OBD2 wire to the part of the vehicle. Now is going under the dash and cleaning up the wire with cable ties. I left a little extra wire at the OBD2 port so another scanner can be connected if needed, and this connector can be pulled off to the side. Finally, the kick panel trim can be snapped into place. Don't forget to connect the trunk switch. Reinstall that trim piece that goes along the door sill. And finally, reinstall the trim panel underneath the dashboard. Also, don't forget to connect the various electrical connectors. Reinstall the screws for that trim panel. Finally, reinstall the 2 Phillips screws for the hood release handle and the trim panel. As for the analog boost gauge sensor, I will be saving that for another video. I will have a full in-depth review video for this in the upcoming weeks. So far, I'm extremely happy with this gauge. It provides me with way more information than compared to the stock gauge cluster. It blends in nicely with the interior. It's easy to use once you become familiar with the navigation buttons, and requires minimal customization for the interior to install. New videos released every week on my channel. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button. It's a huge help to me, and leave a comment below if you found this tutorial helpful. And if you're not a subscriber, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching.